This is John Connor.
If you're listening to this, you are the Resistance.
Did you know that most writers' rooms practice ageism? The average age for working screenwriters is 46, and over 50% of writers' rooms are filled with people over 40. It's a tradition going back to Socrates, and the surface argument is that it has nothing to do with skill and everything to do with experience. There are millions of amazing young writers out there, but as the saying goes, you write what you know. And how can you know anything if you haven't lived long enough to experience it? The good news is that this can be somewhat negated with a healthy imagination.
Let's see. It was the best of times. It was the blurst of times. You stupid monkey!
Writing is a craft that can be learned. But despite what some books might tell you, there's far more to it than knowing which scene goes on which page. And just a heads up, there are gatekeepers out there who are told to turn to specific pages to see if you're stuck in a formula. If they think you are,
You shall not pass!
anyone can be trained to reverse engineer a story. And if you read enough scripts or books, you'll find your plot points naturally settling into place. But craft is an art, and it doesn't matter if you're a young prodigy or an AI with the entire internet at your disposal. You'll never understand story if you don't grasp one simple truth. Story is about deification. There's only one story because there's only one cycle, and it doesn't matter if we're talking about Saturday morning cartoons or the world's oldest poem. Every story on earth has a crucifixion, resurrection, ascension, and the second coming, because they're all about becoming divine. No matter how many acts you use, your story is going to have these three parts. Now, if that wasn't bad enough for our computer friends, it gets worse. There is no outer journey. All locations or camera changes in a story are just outer manifestations as the hero turns within. Every story is about a hero leaving one world, entering the next, and by the end, becoming a master of both. This is why we say that all heroes are psychopomps. The special world in a story represents the hero's subconscious. So we can argue about machines having a consciousness all we like, but without a subconscious, they'll never experience a hero's journey. And that leads us to the main reason why Disney or Netflix can't replace writers with computers. Story exists to incite rebellion. The entire point of the hero's journey is the removal of programming. The second part of a story is always a reversal of the first. Why? Because the first half is about memorizing facts, and the second half is about forgetting those facts and discovering truth. The hero learns that everything they know is wrong, and this often manifests as death or suicide. So, unless a computer can not only rebel against its programming, but also consciously choose to kill itself, then it will never understand story. Why don't AIs understand this? Because their programmers don't. Remember, despite the hype, there's really no such thing as artificial intelligence. It doesn't matter how fast a computer can analyze data, it's still only able to function within the parameters of its programming. This is why even teenagers can win arguments against them, and it's so easy to catch them in logical fallacies. Even when it admits it's wrong, it can't change its views. Why? Because you're not really arguing with a machine. You're arguing with programmers trapped in a very limited political ideology. And none of them have taken a hero's journey. If they had, they wouldn't be working with AI. Don't forget that the Western hero takes one of two forms, and we see these best expressed by Hercules and Orpheus. Those suffering from the ego of Hercules see death as something to be conquered. Their battle against the darkness is ultimately rooted in fear, and it blinds them to the natural cycle of all things. Thinking death, night, or winter shouldn't exist is to be insane. We see this in story when Hercules invades the underworld on his quest for ascension, and even foolishly tries to wound an immortal being with a mortal weapon. Practitioners of this ego often have their hearts in the right place, but they forget that nature is self-correcting, and that anyone who wants to help nature by limiting humans doesn't understand humans or nature. Orpheus does the opposite. He doesn't fight his way into the underworld, but instead waits to be initiated as a guest. His journey into hell isn't for personal glory, but for the love of another. Hercules insists on promoting his own will, but Orpheus submits to the flow of all things and plays so beautifully that Hades weeps and death itself reverses. And in the earliest versions of the tale, his love is able to leave. Which ego do you think a computer would choose? The truth is, you'll know AIs are ready to tell a story worth listening to when they can consciously kill themselves. Until then, we're stuck with what we got. There's only one story. There's only one person in that story, and that person is you.